Thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's incredibly inspiring to be here today. I was very much looking forward, and when I got the invitation to speak, it was just a very quick, of course I would love to be here and to meet as many of these wonderful women and men here that are in the audience today. And I think it's inspiring not only to meet the speakers who are sharing amazing stories, but also to meet all of you here and learn how you're looking to shape the next generation of the renewable and the clean tech space. So with that, I'll just jump into the slides because I know we don't have a lot of time, and we'll start with just a little bit of a personal story to break the ice. So I'm a surviving investment banker and still very much enjoying it since 2003 and still very much enjoying it today. What that means is I got into banking in 2003 thinking this was going to be really a 2-year career and I was going to move on to more manageable schedule. And here I am 12 years later, still loving every minute of it. That doesn't mean I haven't had a lot of very intimate conversations with myself if I can continue doing it. And the answer has always been yes. I love doing it. And now that I do it in a sector that I really care about, that's going to shape the conversation really going forward. I also have a 4-year-old, and which means I have an amazing husband who is incredibly supportive, and he shares often more than 50% of our family household duties. And I have an amazing nanny who I trust more than anything, and all the teachers at school. I can't tell you how much I just love all of them because they help me do what I do. Even though I always try to maximize the time I spend at home because it's just incredibly delightful. I started my own business with a great partner this year, and this is after thinking for the last 5 years I wanted to do something. I was really do something entrepreneurial. My ideas were always evolving around the clean tech, around the high tech industry, because a lot of my classmates from Berkeley, frankly, that's all they talk about. And it's just incredibly interesting and incentivizing to be around them. And then it kind of hit me, well, why go away from what I really love, and why don't I combine both of those passions and just try to make it work? And the most important thing was just meeting a great partner who thinks like me and who gives me an incredible confidence that we can service clients and try to add value to our sector. I'm also a certified not practicing lifeguard, and this is one example where people would follow your leadership not for any other reason but just because their life depends on you. And then I'm originally from Bulgaria, and I'm a very proud soccer fan, and I love the World Series, the Soccer World Series. So with that, we'll just jump into a little bit more how I went into the sector and what it meant and how my career evolved. But maybe it's somewhat interesting to others, and then I'll go into some more stats about the renewable sector and energy broadly, which I think is an incredibly important sector. So I started my career in Deloitte & Touche, one of the big 5, I think, at the time. It was just incredibly interesting. I was 22, and I found myself in conversations with CFOs and treasurers and CEOs, and they actually wanted to talk to me, which was, at the time, I didn't think I had anything important to say. But those people were very respectful. I was very much examining their books. I bounced around between high-tech, government contracting, non-for-profit, industrial clients, and somehow in those couple of years I stumbled upon energy, and the contractual arrangements in the energy sector I found were fascinating. And not because only you wake up in the morning, you turn on the line, and everything works, but it's just such a complex sector. So many relationships there with the fuel supply and with the energy generation, with the transmission. It's so big, it's so large, and it's so complex. It was very fascinating to me. Everyone else wanted to go into high tech, and I kept wanting to be put on those energy generation projects because I loved it. So then I went to get my MBA after I decided I didn't want to be a partner with the big 5 firm, and I had to retool myself and wanted to go into investment banking. A small bank before Goldman actually took the risk of hiring me, even though I didn't have investment banking experience. This was 2003. If you all remember, it was just an incredibly difficult market. No one was hiring. The opposite was happening. And so I spent 2 years there. At the end of it, instead of kind of thinking through what I wanted to do, I decided I wanted to continue to spend time in the sector. Thank you. And so I moved to Goldman Sachs, which was just an incredible 7 years, which feels like 35 of them. But again, I started with the coal and gas and nuclear. And then again, somewhere along the way, I got stuff on a geothermal project, and I loved it. Not only was it continued to be very interesting and complex, but it was very meaningful. And so that I wanted to do more solar and wind, and just gravitated a lot more towards those sectors in the time. At that point of time, I moved on. In order to come back to California, I moved on to a great investment bank solely focused on renewables and wind. It was a fantastic fit. I spent the last 2.5 years working on a number of deals in the renewable sector, solar primarily. One thing I would say is, when you think about the deals that I've worked on and the size that was mentioned at the beginning, so much of those are in the coal and the gas sector. The renewable sector is still very small, but it's just the velocity of transactions is amazing. And then I started EOS Capital Advisors earlier this year. We've been going 6 months into it. Extremely interesting. Energy sector is just an incredibly important sector for all of us. I think we know everything we do, every lunch we take, every product we consume, it's all energy. 7 billion people in the world use energy every day. So it's a sector that will dominate a lot of other sectors. And yet, when you think about who's producing the energy in the world, 55% of the world's energy produced is coming from the top 5 countries. 70% of the top energy is coming from the top 10 countries. So there's really a big disbalance. At the same time, those are not necessarily the largest users of energy. Actually, on the opposite, some of those large users are very energy efficient, and they don't have a lot of high energy intensity. And then it's not, I'll move on because it's not clear because the text is changed. But today, even 200 years into it, we're still using 70% of our energy from coal, oil, natural gas, and then nuclear. And those are finite resources, which means they're running out, and we have to replace them with something that is there for the longer term. And this kind of puts it all in perspective. You can see those resources this is the total reserves on the right side. So this is what's left. The annual, in terms of terawatt year, that's the measurement for this sector. World energy use a year is about 16. So you can see how you have a multiple of those that you can still use, and which means we have to move and do a lot more renewables. And solar by far is the greatest and the largest resource that can help us meet the demand in the future. So this is kind of a matrix of what renewable and clean tech sectors are. And I spend an awful lot of time in the left upper corner, which is the energy generation. And there's still 6 sectors, at least, in that energy generation segment. It's a lot more. I mean, clean tech and renewable, there's 8 verticals here. Within each of those verticals, there are at least 5 sub-verticals. I think logically, there's probably at least 50 companies in each of those sub-verticals, and so you kind of can do the multiplication. The opportunity for us to have a meaningful role and advance the industry and work at a place where we have fun and feel like we're furthering the environment is enormous. I mean, a lot of those companies here are startups or innovative technologies. There are tons of companies that are, for all of you that prefer larger companies, there are a ton of companies who are large conglomerates that are investing money in those sectors and looking to fund those companies, or they have divisions. And so there's just an enormous opportunity here to work in a place that adds value to our world. Starting a business is incredibly exciting. It's also nerve-wracking at a point of time. I think having a partner that you can start a business with is incredibly important. And I think diversity always goes both ways. I think we very much get complemented by strong men that can help us be more confident and help us as a team. The team effort, I always believe, is just an incredibly important aspect of how you interact with the world. And I think the two of us complement each other with very complementary skill set. The fact that we're a male and a man, I think it's fantastic, and we bring diversity to our efforts to our clients as well. And so I just encourage you, if you're thinking about starting a business, finding the right partner, incredibly exciting. If you work in a big corporation, I think still diversity is incredibly important, and I think it goes both ways. And I've had amazing mentors in my career. Because I've been in banking, I've always been the minority, and a lot of amazing men have mentored me and have mentored others. And I never forget to be extremely appreciative about all the opportunities I've been given. So look forward to meeting every single one of you if I can, or majority of you. And thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.